Hi everyone! Today I'm doing an art challenge once again. This time I wanted to give some attention to an OC of mine that I've been neglecting a lot. This time my victim is going to be Daisy. I looked at quite a few different prompt lists, but none of them really spoke to me. Then I realized that I can just make my own list, so here is my OC drawing challenge. I put together 15 prompts that I liked. If anyone decides to do it, feel free. You can change up some prompts to fit your character better, or skip them altogether. I had a lot of fun doing this, and it did help me flesh Daisy out a little bit, but let's just get into it. So a good chunk of the prompts have to do with outfits, and to save myself some time, I decided to start with a blank base of the character, and I will draw the outfits on top of it like a dress-up doll. Daisy is one of my middle school OCs that I redesigned and rewrote in this video, that I mention in almost every video I make after that. Sorry. I will also be talking about the lore here, so if you haven't seen it, it's good to do that so you can have all of the needed context. Daisy is part of the Witch's Sorrows, one of my stories. She's 19, a college student, likes photography, and is a goth. She's quite cynical and a bit irritable at times. She doesn't show her emotions much and is pretty closed off with most people, but if you're her friend, she will always be there for you. Daisy definitely has the least going on plot-wise compared to the rest of the cast, and I don't even know why. More recently, I made him gender fluid. For a while, I didn't really have a gender identity or sexuality in mind for him, but then it just clicked, at least for gender. Sexuality is still a bit vague, but yeah, Daisy is gender fluid and goes by both she and he. That's all the info for now. The base I drew is bald and barefaced, so it's easier to adjust. Daisy is one of those characters that drastically change their appearance all the time. She has different hair, makeup, and outfit every time I draw her, and it's really fun. I will be adjusting the makeup for each outfit, but here's the base, and now let's get to the actual drawings. First prompt is default design, pretty self-explanatory. Now, Daisy doesn't exactly have a default design. Like I said, he looks different all the time. Sometimes I give him medium-length locks, braids, maybe curls, straight hair, really short wavy hair. Same with his clothing. In the end, I decided to draw this look. It's one of my favorites and I use it as a reference all the time. Daisy's role in the story is a bit shaky as of now. I mean, I have the backstory down and most of the character relationships, but the more serious and complicated parts of the plot are still a work in progress. The other characters' plots came to me a lot easier. I don't know what's up with Daisy in particular, but here is the first outfit. I think it's a decent default look for her, and I really like how it turned out. Next prompt is old design. Often your character's look changes over time as you draw them, so this prompt could be how they looked when you first made them. Or if you're like me and like to completely redo your old characters, this can also be the character's look before the redesign. Like I mentioned, I originally made Daisy when I was in middle school, and she has gone through a lot of changes. Here is how she used to look. Cute, but kinda bland. At the time, my understanding of diversity and how to properly represent minorities was very surface level. I mean, to be fair, my style was also extremely simple, but if you look at my black OCs from that time, they look really similar. They just have bigger lips, curls, and darker skin. I didn't know about many different black hairstyles, edges, two-tone lips, lighter palms, and all that. Not to say that I'm an expert at it now, don't get me wrong. I still fall into, I guess, character archetypes. Just look at Daisy, Cat, and Max, all my characters. They're all black, short, and chubby. I swear this wasn't intentional at all. At least they're all from different stories, have different styles, facial features, and personalities, but I definitely could use more practice in designing black characters. Here is Tom, for example, he looks different. My knowledge of different body types was also very surface level. Daisy was supposed to be short and plus size, but yeah. It's fascinating how at that time she did look plus size to me, but years later, with more anatomy knowledge, I actually made her look the way I wanted. It was really interesting to try and translate the old design into my current style, while still kind of making it look like Daisy. I actually made a video recently comparing my characters' old designs to their current ones. Felt kind of uncanny to draw them like that, but I got comments saying that the old designs look like younger versions of the characters, maybe before they found their style. That's actually so adorable and a really nice way to look at it, honestly. Story-wise, Daisy was also really bland and didn't have much going on. She was just friends with some of the other characters, and that's about it. I didn't even draw her much because her design was really simple, so I'm glad that I revisited her and gave her a new life. Now she's much more interesting. At least design-wise, story still needs some work. But the old design will always have a special place in my heart and make me feel really nostalgic. Moving on to formal outfit, what the character would wear to an event, a party, maybe prom. For this I added white face paint to the base. I mentioned earlier that Daisy is a goth. My main inspiration is trad goth, but I'm not an expert on that, so there might be some other sub-style elements mixed in there as well, but sometimes Daisy likes to wear face paint. I also decided to give him curly hair here. I imagine it's probably a wig. He keeps his natural hair in locks, but also has a bunch of wigs to change up his look. I wanted to add more color to this look as well. Daisy usually wears black, grey, maybe a little bit of red. For this look I wanted to add more red. This outfit is definitely on the more simple side, but I still like it a lot. I love this hair on Daisy as well. Next is school uniform, self-explanatory. I have drawn Daisy like this in the past as flashbacks. She went to school with Dan, Ben, and Elsa. I imagine it's a public school. They don't necessarily have a uniform there, more of a dress code, white button-up, a black tie, and either black pants or a skirt. Girls are supposed to wear skirts, but Daisy refused to and only wore pants. Something like that. This is also before he started expressing himself more, so he's not wearing any makeup, has his full eyebrows intact, and his hair is in a simple ponytail. Daisy was actually pretty active in school and participated in a lot of stuff. She's not very outgoing like that, but Dan was really encouraging her and helped her feel more confident. Not much else to say here. Moving on to PJs, I always liked imagining or drawing my characters in pajamas or just more comfortable clothing. Something about it is so fun to me. At first I was going to draw Daisy in a cool gothic set, but realistically she would wear a bonnet and a nightgown. That nightgown is at least 4 years old for sure. Alternative people don't look alternative all the time. Same can go for characters. In the actual story, Daisy lives in a dorm and is neighbors with Sam. It's funny to imagine him walking down the halls like this, but that's about it for this prompt. For the next prompt, I decided to add Fursona. This one was the most challenging for me for sure. I'm not good at drawing normal animals, let alone furries. But for Daisy, the first animal that came to my mind was a bat. I also cheated a little bit and made this a bust and not a full body. Maybe I should have done a full body actually. Maybe someday I'll redo this. This isn't the most creative design, I definitely could have done better, so let's not focus on this too much and just keep moving down the list. Now we are getting to more interesting pieces. Next prompt is as a kid/adult. Obviously, if your character is an adult, you draw them as a kid, and if they're already a kid, you draw them as an adult. You guys are smart, you get it. I wanted to put more effort into this one. So far, the pieces have been pretty simple. While looking for references, I found a perfect photo of kids on a tree. And here I drew not just Daisy, but Dan, Ben, and Elsa as well. The four of them are childhood friends. I think Daisy and the twins have known each other since birth pretty much, then met Elsa later on. They were pretty much inseparable as kids, always asked to hang out together, went on little adventures, got in trouble a lot. Dan was definitely the leader in the group. He was really energetic, mischievous, and fearless. He was always the one dragging the others on adventures. Ben is the oldest in the group, and he's a lot more reserved than his brother. He was always a little bit anxious, tried to talk Dan down from a lot of things, but ultimately would end up going along with it. Daisy was also really shy and a bit anxious, but would always excitedly follow Dan in his shenanigans. Over time, he helped her build up her confidence. At one point, she also had a little crush on Dan, but it never went anywhere. Elsa, like I said, joined the group later, but this friendship really helped her. Back at home, she had a complicated relationship with her mom, and she found comfort in this little group. But Elsa wasn't a great friend. She was bratty at times, would get upset at small things, and lashed out sometimes. When they were little, it could be chalked up to them being kids and not knowing how to regulate their emotions. But it continued into her teenage years too. She was impulsive, still lashed out at times, and would even get jealous of her friends. But the others still cared about her a lot and just kind of learned how to deal with that side of Elsa. As teens, Ben and Elsa became a couple. It definitely happened naturally and not because of a love spell, not at all. And Ben died soon after due to natural causes and not because of side effects of a love spell. Surely not. But yeah, spoiler, Ben dies. And that completely changed the group forever. Elsa moves away without saying goodbye and doesn't contact her friends for years. Dan is obviously grieving. This took a huge toll on him and his family. His parents slowly became more distant from one another, to the point they even slept in different rooms. Dan distanced himself from everybody and completely shut down. He wasn't a mischievous, loud boy anymore. Now he was quiet, didn't leave his room much for a while. Meanwhile, Daisy was also grieving. She lost a dear friend, but she was hopeful that the three of them could come together and support each other in a time like this. But the opposite happened. Elsa left, Dan stopped responding to messages or picking up the phone. Daisy was alone. I'm gonna stop here. Here is the finished piece. I wish I put more effort into the background. It definitely feels a bit out of place to me, but I still like this and it makes me feel really bittersweet. My babies. Back to the outfits. Next prompt is at the beach / swimwear. You can either just draw your character in their swimwear, or maybe draw a whole beach scene for this. Beach or a summer vacation is something that I really like. When I was little and on vacation myself, I made up scenarios of my characters at the beach. I've always really loved the beach episodes and cartoons, for example. It's just really fun. I still kinda do that. What would the character wear? What would they get up to at the beach? Are they a swimmer, a tanner, or do they just hang out on the sand in the shade? What's their swimwear like? Do they wear trunks or bikinis or something with a little more coverage? Or do they wear a whole shirt? I find that really fun to think about, even if it doesn't impact the actual story. For Daisy, I left her barefaced. Again, I could make her look really fabulous and everything, but realistically, beaches are already kind of a sensory nightmare. I can't imagine wearing a lot of makeup on top of that. I also kept her hair simple and gave her a cute bikini, nothing much. I think Daisy is pretty chill at the beach, stays in the shade most of the time, but in the evening or when the sun isn't shining so much, she could go for a little swim. I did this very quickly, but I like it. Next is winter clothing, also something that I find really fun to think about. When I design my characters, I give them clothing suitable for warm weather, but I really like imagining them all wrapped up for winter. But I don't draw that much for some reason. That also helps flesh out the character a little bit. Do they get cold easily? Do they care more about looks or comfort? Little things like that. That was my wrist cracking. Wow. With this drawing, I wanted to lean into a more masculine side of Daisy's style. After I made him gender fluid, I also started giving him more masculine outfits sometimes. Not to say that gender fluid people have to dress a certain way, people can dress however they want regardless of gender, but with Daisy I want to have that variety. That also makes him stand out a bit more. Daisy doesn't get cold very easily, and he's kind of in the middle in terms of looks versus comfort. He just throws on whatever he can find, and it looks nice because his wardrobe is very coordinated, I guess. This was also really fun to do. This is Daisy on a lazy day, I would say. After all these outfits and exploring the character's fashion style, I added opposite fashion style to the list. I could just take the base again and draw an outfit on top of it, but decided against it. Instead, I made this into a mini comic. Mingyu picked out an outfit for Daisy, and she wasn't a fan. As the opposite to goth, I picked the coquette style. There's a lot of pink, bows, frills, all the good stuff that Daisy despises. I like the expression here. Also, I already posted this to my Instagram, follow me, and some people thought it was cat at first. Can't say I blame you. And almost immediately I got asked to draw Mingyu in an outfit picked by Daisy. I haven't done it yet, but I'm definitely getting to that after I'm done with this video. Next, I wanted to focus on character dynamics. This prompt is with a character they are closest to. At first, I was thinking between Sam and Mingyu. Daisy is friendly with them, they are on very good terms. Her and Sam spend the most time together since they live in the same dorm. But the truth is, Daisy is the closest with Dan, even if they're not on great terms in the main story. So like I said before, after Ben died, Dan completely shut down. Daisy tried to cheer him up the best she could. She would ask him to meet up and just be in each other's company. Dan would decline, give an excuse. Daisy tried to just talk through messages or on the phone if he didn't want to leave the house, but that was also declined. Gradually, Dan started taking longer to respond to messages and return calls, until there was no response at all. Daisy decided to give him space. She could only imagine how hard this must be for him, so she backed off and was ready to be there when he needed her. But then the silence continued for months and then years. No messages, no calls. Dan changed schools, they both graduated and unknowingly went to the same college. One day Daisy saw Dan in the hallway. She was upset for sure, but seeing him again healthy and visibly happier made her hopeful. She was about to say hi, but then looked the other direction and walked right past her without saying a word. Daisy was confused, but maybe he just didn't recognize her. That thought calmed her down a bit, but after she kept getting ignored, it was pretty clear that Dan is just avoiding her. From there, Daisy said screw him and just stopped trying. Dan changed too. He was now quiet, a huge people pleaser with a group of ignorant friends surrounding him, and he was constantly trying to be perfect. A perfect student, perfect son, perfect malleable friend. Later in the story, the two of them try to reconcile, Dan tries to apologize, but at that point Daisy is just over it. Dan does show with his actions that he's trying to be better, but their friendship can never go back to how it was. They still care about each other a lot though. When they were teens, Dan actually had feelings for Daisy too, but never made a move. And now in the main plot they are very estranged friends. They get closer over the course of the story, especially when Elsa comes back and does things. A lot of things. There are ups and downs, but ultimately Dan is the one Daisy is closest to. Another thing I want to quickly mention before we move on, you might have noticed from the speed paint that I drew or traced over my reference. I do that sometimes with more complicated poses or compositions, when I don't have time or energy to draw it completely from scratch. I do it only with photo references, not other people's art, and I don't just blindly trace the photos either. I basically draw my guidelines over the photo, adjust the proportions, and then use the guidelines for the sketch. It saves me time, but I don't constantly rely on that. I can draw a pose from scratch if I wanted to, but sometimes I don't have time for that. Just wanted to mention that really quickly. Next prompt is with a character they are least close to. Here I didn't have to think much. I remember I tried to make a guide for my characters. I wrote down some basic info and stuff, the character dynamics, and when I got to Daisy and Bonnie, I realized that they don't really have a dynamic. They're not very friendly, but not enemies either. Acquaintances is the best way to put it, I guess. I just drew them sitting awkwardly. I guess Daisy could be a little scared of Bonnie, but in a silly way. Bonnie is meant to be really awkward, kind of off-putting. Not a lot of people understand her. I want to draw a mini comic where everyone gets startled by her. She makes no noise when she walks, so she just kind of appears behind people and they get startled. Everyone except Mingu. I really love how Daisy turned out here. He looks so simplified and cartoony to me. This is also another look that I have drawn before and it really stuck with me. I love this hair on him. Bonnie also turned out really nice, I think. Not much else to say about this. I definitely need to work on their dynamic and make it more interesting. Next prompt is their hobby. Daisy's hobby is photography, like I mentioned, but I kind of forget about that part of her character, to be honest. This one was really fun to draw, and here Daisy is actually smiling for once. It wasn't intentional, but it works really well. She's very reserved and quiet, but happy when doing something she enjoys. I really like the result here, but after I was done and I looked at it again, it reminded me of my old photo finish from My Little Pony design. She is also a photographer, short and chubby, and black as well, just with albinism. I want to give a blood warning for the next drawing. If you do not want to see that, you can skip to the timestamp on the screen and look out for those drawings on the final slideshow. Okay, we are almost done. Next prompt is Halloween costume. I couldn't not include this. I could use the base for this drawing as well, but decided to make it its own thing. For the costume, I went with ghost face, but adjusted a little bit. I also made multiple versions, with and without the mask. Daisy loves Halloween for sure and goes all out on her costumes. For the background, I went back to my roots a little bit and drew guts, similarly to how I did multiple times in my sketchbooks, including on a Ghostface page. That felt weirdly nostalgic. Not much else to say about this one. Let's move on to the very last prompt. At the end, I put family portrait. I freaking love designing families for my characters, even if it doesn't impact the story at all. I love coming up with different family dynamics, mixing up the facial features between the parents and the kids. It's so fun to create new faces out of similar features. Does the character take more after their dad or their mom? Usually for me it's the mom. This also helps with facial diversity, I think. Usually the family members end up as side characters, that's if they are included in the plot at all, but sometimes I might like the character so much that they join the main cast. That happened with Bonnie's mom, Cassandra. I first drew her just because I wanted to design an older witch lady, and I wasn't planning on doing much with her after that. But then I kept getting fun ideas for her, and you guys were giving me your headcanons, and it all piled up into a full character. So now she does play a role in the story, and she's one of my favorites. With Daisy's family, I wanted to experiment more with the designs, especially with Daisy's sister. I gave them slightly differing skin tones for more variety, different hairstyles and colors. The dad was really challenging for me because I don't draw older men super often. The anatomy here isn't perfect, but I still like how it all turned out in the end. None of the characters have names yet, and I'm not entirely sure what kind of dynamic I want them to have. I'm always open to suggestions though. I want to draw the sister again and work on her design more. She's really cute. I also added a little doggy. I forget about pets sometimes. But here is the last drawing from this challenge. I was really excited to get to this one. I love giving my characters families. It, again, might not impact the story much, but it fleshes out the character more and makes them feel more real and relatable. And we are done for today. This was so much fun. I'm glad that I paid more attention to Daisy. I don't know what it is about her, but even in middle school she gradually became more of a background character for me, but I don't want this to happen again. I also really recommend doing something like this with your characters. It's really fun. Hopefully this will help me with Daisy's lore. But this is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, all that. Check out my other socials, they will be on the screen and in the description. Stay safe and I'll see you in the next video. Bye! Black tie and either black pants or skirt. Girls are supposed to wear blah blah, and was really encouraging her and help her This one was the most challenging for me for sure. I'm not gonna join normal elements. But for Daisy, the first when they were little, it could be chalked up to them being kids and not knowing how to regulate this with a character. They are real acquaintances is the way Does the character take more after their dad?